if wait, where is the recording button? Okay. Hello all. So this been a while that we haven't met as I was shifting my home. So I was a little bit busy for the last 2-3 weeks. Um so what's today? So there is one question that I have for today that came along from a social media website. And then last week, in as a part of my job, I completed some SaaS upgrades and there were some learnings around it. So thought to discuss those. That'll help others as you guys may have SaaS customers. And then if there is something else to discuss, we can discuss about it. Otherwise, that's it for today. So let me start. Okay. So let's start with the normals. Where do you register? If you are not a default attendee, then you go to this page every week and register. This link normally gets updated by tomorrow by max. And if you're here and you don't want to get into the hassle of registering every week, then you can drop your name and email in chat and I'll add you in the default attendee list. Okay. So the first question that I had for today, or the only question that I had for today, is that around someone implementing Business Central for their customer, and the problem is that they have so many service contract. They posted some invoices, and the invoices went with email with PDF as attachment. Now the number of invoices and email surprisingly are adding a record in this table. And just in 3 weeks, the database have grown to 36 GB just for this table. Now, this is a serious problem if your customer is on BC SaaS for sure. It should be a problem if your customer is on PC on-prem also, because that's a huge growth in the database size. And we should be aware how to deal with these kind of issues when we get stuck into this. So let's first understand what the issue is. Okay, so let me open my Business Central tenant and drag it here. Okay, so this is my sandbox environment. Now, if I go into table information, the table 2 lakh 184 is the tenant media table, I guess. Let's see that. Yes, this is tenant media table, which stores some kind of record. At this point, it says 185 records. So in the NAV world, this table was used, and I'm pretty sure it's still used, to store the media files. Like if we have item pictures, if we have customer pictures and vendor pictures, those are actually get stored into this table. And then there is this reference, which is used to get that tenant media ID, and based on that, the users are able to see pictures in the application. So that's how this table was being used in the NAV world. But now let's try to replicate the scenario that the question have. So the table stands at 185 records at this point. Now let's go ahead and try to send an email. Okay. Let's pick a sales order and let's do a, let me see, is there a report selection done for it or not? Okay. Oh, there are two, so let me remove one, otherwise I'll try to send two emails. Okay. So now if I do a email confirmation, that opens, I'm using the new email module, that opens the new email. And if I try to send it to myself, and it have an attachment, I'm pretty sure, here, the report. And if I do a send email, the email will be sent out. Okay. Now, as soon as this email has been sent, let's refresh this page and see what happened of 185 records. So 185 actually became 186. That means per email, it is kind of storing a data into this particular table. Let's try sending it again, this time again. Does it actually increase it again or not? Okay. I'm pretty sure I'm receiving those emails. So let me also verify that part, that I'm receiving them or not. Okay. Where is this window? Okay. So the second email has been also sent, and when I open this on my Gmail, I see both of the emails that have came through from the center. Okay, now let's go back and see the records in this table. Have they increased or not? So now it's standard 187, which means per email it is trying to store one additional record in the tenant media table. And if I short it at create a date, okay, it shows me that there are two records that are created today based on those two emails which we have sent. If I move toward left, it shows me that there is an application Okta stream, which is more or less an attachment that is stored in the tenant media table. So now the question that is there according to this feature is that it's growing the database size and how should we handle it. So now let's understand it from this perspective, and we have talked about it in the past, that there is a data administration wizard that's being added in Business Central 19, which gives some wizard option to administrator to make sure that the data in the environment can be kept in a limited way. There are options of deleting certain data. There are options of compressing data and things like that. So that's a very important area where Microsoft is paying more attention to. So what you can do is you can click on the data administration, and you can't just add any table or compress any table or delete any table. But then there is something called as, and we have talked about it in past, it's called retention policies. Now the retention policy feature in Business Central allows you to define a specific timeline about how long you want to store a particular kind of document. Not actually document, but a record. And when you click on open the list of retention policy, by default, there will be a retention policy log entry existing. You can't just add any table here. The tables which will be available to set up a retention is defined by the extension developer. In this case, because we are talking about the base Microsoft app, the tables that you can set retention on is predefined by Microsoft and we cannot change it. But if you have a table in your extension, which is kind of a log table, then for that table in your extension, you can define that this table be the part of the retention policy. But I cannot overwrite what Microsoft have done, or I cannot overwrite what you have done in your extension. That is, the extension developer or the partner decides which table are allowed to be set on retention. So when I click new and I try to drill down on my table ID, Microsoft have only given option for these two tables. One is email outbox and one is send email. Email outbox is anything that's in your outbox which haven't been sent yet. And sent email is whatever has been sent till now. Maybe Microsoft will add some tables in future. I don't know. If they do, great. For this problem, what that question says, you should define the retention policy for your send email table and then also define how long you want to retain those emails. And it's up to you how long you want to design. You cannot actually define one day. I was just testing it. If you go into it and if you try to, let's try to edit this. If I try to do it to set a retention of one day, there will be an error saying that you need to have at least 2 days before the current day. Okay, so let's try a 2D. It works here, but when I select this 2D here, the table has its own mandatory retention period, which is supposed to be 7 days. So the minimum retention timeline that you can have is 7 days. You'll have to keep one set of data for at least 7 days. So I can actually come here and define that, okay, I want to delete any data on this. Uh, is there a way that I can define that? No. Okay. So let me edit this 1 week. Okay. You can also kind of set it up 1 week. That's why it says 1 week. Okay. Then click OK, and it will define the age of your record by default based on the system field which were added in BC17 called system created at, as in when this record was created. If you want to decide the age of that record based on a different date time field that you have, you can choose that from that particular table. So that option is with you. If it's your table, you can define the age based on any date time field. Once you have done this, if you want to check are there any legacy record which are already 1 week older in this particular situation, then you can also try to apply it manually. It will scan for any data records in this table which are part of which can be kind of removed at this point, and if there are any record it will expire those record and you'll get a count here. But as we just created those records today, it will not uh, delete any records at this point. Now, how I know that this will work is if you come here and see how many records are there. Let's see, 187 at this point. If I come into this window and go into send email, there are these two records which we have sent. If I just delete one of these records of send items, the record count will reduce because there is a attachment attached to the tenant media table based on that send item. So if you keep that retention policy for this table active, that will allow the system to automatically truncate legacy emails because those are already being sent from the tenant media table. And I'm pretty sure this will solve the problem that this person have around growth of the database size exponentially just by sending multiple emails. So keep this in mind while you are building solutions for your business central, at least specifically for SaaS customers, because this is super important. Because if the growth of database in 3 weeks have gone to 36 GB just for this one table, that's a huge growth in the database size. So keep your eye on it. Make sure that you use all the available data administration feature. which are available in Business Central. And not just a retention policy. If you move ahead, there are other options. Unused companies, that's just one time. Data compression, we have talked about it in previous sessions. If there are any questions, I'll be happy to talk about it again. But you can use data compression, which is available again, and then it can compress different kind of ledger entries. That again is defined by the app uh, app developer or app partner. There is actually a separate extension for data administration, if I'm not wrong. Let me see. Okay. Data archive is a separate extension in Business Central 19, which allows you to do data archiving, and it's extensible. So if you have to utilize data archiving capabilities for your solutions that you're building, you can actually use methods and extend those by having a dependency of your extension with the data archive extension. Okay, having said that, hope that answers this person's query. So now let's move ahead. If there are no questions, let's move ahead and talk about SaaS upgrade. Now, there are certain things which are very specific towards the SaaS upgrade. How they are done, most of us know that they are done by Microsoft. They happen twice a year, once in September during wave 2 and once in March during wave 1. Those are the two major release cycles from Microsoft. And these are major updates. And then there is another kind of update which are called minor upgrades, which in the previous NAV word we used to call as cumulative updates. And both of them happen automatically. But this discussion is specifically about the major updates because they are considered a little bit, I would not call them destructive, but there are some changes which can break your legacy code that you have written for your customers. And that's become important because there are only three warnings that are generated by Microsoft in three different instances, where if as a partner slash as a customer, if you haven't paid attention to those three warnings, your customer may lose the functionality that you have developed for them, and not just one piece of it, the whole extension, all the functionality in that extension will not be available for your customers. So it is super important that every time there's a major update, you pay attention and have a discussion with all your SaaS customer and make sure that the tenant is ready for the next big upgrade. Now, what these three warnings are and where they apply, these three warnings that I'm talking about, and we'll spend a little bit more time into it, are not just for the extension that partners are developing for customers, but they are also applicable to apps which are available on App Source. So even if you have an app on App Source, you need to make sure that that app is uh, usable after the next upgrade and it's ready for changes that are required for the next big jump. For App Source extension, it's very crucial because if they were not upgraded and not become compatible before the release of the product, more or less, or in 15-20 days, they actually will be removed from Microsoft App Source. So the App Source partner have more to do than the pertinent extension that you me build for our customers. Pertinent extension will also be removed if the warnings are being ignored and the issues are not fixed in the timely manner. But sometimes what happens is we don't kind of know what's happening and we have no clue even if we want to do pretty, we are very much worried about our customers, but sometimes we don't know what we need to do. And that's the list of three mandatory activities that as a developer slash partner, you need to make sure that these three actions you perform. For every SaaS customer in their admin center, inside the notification area, you should set up your email, or I would preferably say a email group of people who will monitor these emails when they are being sent out by Microsoft. And let me open my demo tenant if I have it somewhere. So in Business Central SaaS, and this is my demo tenant. Let's assume this is my customer environment, a production and a sandbox. There's this area called notification recipient, which is super simple, not that complex to set it up. You just need to add your name and your email address. And with this, just these two details, you will receive any email that is sent by Microsoft regarding this particular tenant. If there are problems, if they have been upgraded, if the upgrade failed, all kind of emails will be received to all the people whose email address are listed in the notification recipients area. So it's very important that for all your SaaS customers, you should have an email group which have multiple people which will get these notification as these upgrades are happening automatically in SaaS. Now, if as a partner you are not utilizing the power that Microsoft is providing by releasing the daily major build and minor builds via Docker images, then that's a risk for your SaaS customers. Using these major builds and using the power of DevOps, and I'm pretty sure everybody would have read the Freddy's blog about AI validation, run AI validation. You can actually check your custom extension compatibility with the next major release well beforehand, even before the preview builds are released. So you don't actually have to wait for preview builds to be released and then start working on those extensions. You can get that info about what code will break in next release actually today by using the major daily builds which are released by Microsoft via Docker library. If the failure reason, and this happened with two of my customer, if the failure reason does not exist in the email that you receive from Microsoft, then don't wait for the another email, because you might get 5 emails and none of them will list down the error why the failure happened. Go ahead and create the Microsoft ticket as soon as you can, because that, in both of my cases where I was stuck, was because of a data issue, or I should say a setup issue, which was by mistakenly enabled by a customer. So if you don't see the reasoning why the upgrade failed in the email that you receive from Microsoft using this notification, make sure you create a Microsoft support ticket and let Microsoft tell you why the upgrade cannot be done. I have requested Microsoft in my last ticket that somehow they need to make sure that this error or this reasoning why this upgrade failed is part of the email that we receive from Microsoft. But till then that happens, make sure if you don't know the reason why this upgrade failed, then you create a support ticket and get that detail from Microsoft. Okay, now let's understand the life cycle of an extension during a SaaS major upgrade. So what happens? I talked about that there are three major warnings that we get, which is warning 1, warning 2, and warning 3. And what happens in these three warnings and how these warnings are segregated from each other is super important to know. When my extension will be removed if I am an ISV partner, when my extension will be removed if I'm developing PDEs for my customers, is an important decision that you and your customer should know and then pay attention to these notifications that are being received from Microsoft. So assume T as the date when the major release was announced. Let's say September 1. September 1 is the major release that was announced. So what happens is warning 1 actually comes between T plus 1, which is September 2, to T plus 30. For first 30 days, Microsoft tries to upgrade each and every tenant which is available in SaaS, and a partner have not delayed their upgrade. And let me talk you through about it. So what happens is whenever a major update is available, you can actually go to an environment. Like I can go to the production and I can say that delay my upgrade to a certain specific date and time. So if this property is not set on one of the environment, Microsoft will automatically try to upgrade each and every tenant that is available in Business Central SaaS. And if there are problems, then there will be a notification. So that happens between the first 30 days. The next step is the warning 2 that happens between the 31st day, more or less, to 60th day of the major release. Between this time, again, Microsoft rechecks it, but there is a slight difference between the warning 1 and warning 2. But if you are a pertinent extension partner that have developed a pertinent extension, your extension is still there and there are no losses on it. And then the last timeline for the warning 3 is from the 61st day till 150 day. So just to make it simple, let's assume this is our September release that we are talking about. So logically what happens is from October release, I guess. Yeah. Is it September release? Maybe it's September. I might have mistyped it. I was thinking something else. But if it is, let's assume October 1st is the first release. Then from October 1st to October 30th, the warning 1, Microsoft will keep on trying to upgrade these tenants and will keep on sending those emails. Then from October 30th to December 31, the second warning phase. And then from December 31st to February 28th, that's the warning third phase. And you can just backtrack it 1 month because it's September, actually, it's not October. So the September release is the last date to kind of apply it will be January 28. That'll be the last day when that can be applied. Now, what happens in these phases? So, if there are warnings in phase 1, which is between the T1, T plus 1, and T plus 30 days, and you are a partner who have an app on App Source and you don't pay attention to it, that particular app will be removed from App Source, not from the environment. It will be removed from the App Source. And there is a very simple reason behind it. It's not to kind of discourage ISV developers or ISV partners. The idea is to make sure that this problem that this app source extension have does not affect the new customers who might install this app. So just to prevent those new customers who might be interested in this particular app that you have on app source, if you don't fix it in first 30 days, that app will be removed from the app source listing. And during these 30 days, the notification actually goes to the administrator, which are listed in that notification area, the resellers, which will also be listed in that area, which are partners, and also to the ISV if it's an app source extension. So this is the first phase where the customer user don't know what's happening. It's only the customer administrator, you as reseller or partner, and then the ISV partner will be notified about this on the phase one. And they are very simple email. They kind of look like this, which says that your business central environment failed to update. We were trying to kind of update this to 19.0, and one of your extension failed to update successfully, and below is the detail of what failed and why it failed. It gives you all the detail. It gives you the customer name here, the environment which failed, what was the version, what was the version after update if it would have been upgraded, when it was scheduled, and what are the errors. So it gives you all kind of detail, even at the point of the, even going to the extent to the exact object, even to the extent of going to the line number, I guess, and giving you the exact error, what's breaking in that. Sorry, and also with the detail of why it is breaking. So in the warning one phase, which is for first 30 days, you get this kind of notification where only administrators, resellers, and the ISV partner will be informed when extension break with the next major upgrade. So that's kind of the phase one of the warning from Microsoft. Now, what happens in the warning phase two? Because till now, the actual users uh, of Business Central don't know anything about this breakage that might happen. At this point in phase two, Microsoft start alerting customers. And when I say customer, that means every user from that customer kind of gets a notification like this when they try to access their environment. On the top ribbon, it says contact your partner. Your Business Central is blocking from getting critical security updates because one or more extension is blocking the update. So in the LR2 phase, every user who uses Business Central will get this notification when they log in their system on the top right hand corner of their screen. It doesn't stop them from working, but now at this point, not just administrator, not just reseller or ISV, everyone, either they are listed in the notification area or not, they will get this notification when they try to access that environment. So this is another attempt from Microsoft that if you forget to set the notification recipient, then after the 30 days first phase, the next phase will make it obvious for each user at your customer to see that there is a problem somewhere and they need to reach out to you as a partner to make sure that the issues are fixed. Now, let's assume a customer ignores all these warnings till 60 days. What happens after that is something called as the customer wind down period starts, which means you'll get a little bit harsh kind of email from Microsoft, but that seems usable at this point because the message comes something like this. If you are using the extension, and this is a part of email, this kind of the style that I shown in the first, you can continue using this extension on the current version for next 90 days. After 90 days, you will be updated, or should I use the word forced to update, sorry, to the next release without this extension. Please ensure that you have resolved the extension compatibility issues as above prior to the such date. So this notification comes again in the email to everyone who is defined in the notification area, and the users who are using it also sees it on their screen on the top right corner. Not this message, the previous one. Because Microsoft have their own timeline that they can wait till you update your extension, because they can't just leave you behind on a version and update others, because that's not how SaaS works. Everybody should be on the latest version, and that's the reason the multi-tenancy kind of also forces it to make sure that everyone is upgraded. So at this point, if you don't pay attention, and even if you skip it and don't pay attention to it till the last day of T plus 150, then what happens is your PTE is also removed. It has one functionality, five functionality, 10 functionality, doesn't matter. The user will not be able to utilize your extension because that extension will be removed, and your environment will be forced to upgrade to the next major release at that point. So I would recommend that if you can fix the best case scenario is you never reach to this point, but you can't control this point because there might be a problem on an app source app, which logically till now I haven't seen. Every partner, I'm pretty sure, is doing their own great amount of work to make sure that their app source apps are up to date. But assuming what I'm saying is correct for everyone who is on app source, as a partner who is maintaining the PDEs or pertinent extensions, you should never reach to this point. And that's the beauty of the daily builds that Microsoft releases on the Insider Build program. And you can utilize them to make sure that the code that you have written, let's say 6 months or a year ago, still will work as it is in the next major release. That's the best case scenario, that you fix it before this happens. I know it's a little bit hard to kind of explain to customer, because I have heard it that people think that if they are on SaaS, they don't need to worry about their upgrades, which is true. They don't. They don't have to come to a partner and say, let's upgrade us. So that's not a thing. But they need to make sure that their code is not getting obsolete or older. Their code should be following what's best and using the latest and greatest features which are available in the program. Like, let's take an example. I'm pretty sure who have customers on SaaS would have seen that the temp blob has been removed. That have caused some problems to some partners. Then there was item cross reference, which is now changed to item references in this release. And it only impacts those customers who have customs in those area. It doesn't impact everyone. It only impact customers who have customs on that area. So when you're discussing it with your customer, the kind of how much riskier your extension for your next upgrade is directly proportionate to amount of customs that you have, and not custom which is outside, or sorry, which is every custom code that you have written, but only custom which have any kind of reference to the base Microsoft, because Microsoft is trying to enhance and keep on enhancing their code base by building these new features and at the same time deprecating the old features in the product. And if your extension was written a year ago, it may be using a feature which will not be available in the next release. And that's the amount of effort that a customer need to spend, sorry, or during, not, I would not say every major upgrade. If the partner is doing their bit, then I would say every third upgrade, which means every second major release. Because anything that Microsoft obsoletes or removes from the product has a life of a year. So if as a developer we don't ignore those warnings and we pay attention to anything that's coming in our VS code as a warning, and which says very clearly that this will become an error in future, then the life of that code that you are writing today, you can guarantee it for at least for 1 year. Because after 1 year, anything that was tagged as to be obsolete today will be removed after 1 year. So yes, as much as SaaS upgrades are free, the age of your code is very important, at least for the SaaS customers. Cost wise, it's not that costly as it used to be in the NAV world for fixing these issues. But yes, it's not zero, and we need to understand that as customers and partners and explain it to our customers. Any questions on this one? Okay. So that was more or less for today. If there is anything, I'll be happy to sit and discuss. Otherwise, I guess we are good for this week, and then we'll meet next year, somewhere in January. Any questions? Any thoughts?
No, right now.
Okay. Thank you, man. Enjoy your holidays, and we'll see you next year.
Thank you. See you soon. Bye.
Bye. Thanks.